session with potential litigation and potential property acquisition. Remind everyone about the public comment procedure. Public comment is available first for agenda items for residents, Lower Saucon Township residents, and Lower Saucon Township taxpayers. There is a 3-minute time limit. If there are any questions about the policy, copies are available on the tables outside the council chambers. And I passed over the potential action on executive session issues.
Yeah, we don't have any action that we need to.
All right, so we have public comment for agenda items. I have a list here. The first name that is on the list is Donna Louder. For anyone that's going to be speaking on agenda items, when you come forward, please identify yourself by name.
Donna Lower. I am here to discuss the agenda item for the air quality testing. I am sure that everybody's familiar with the results from the prior air quality test done in Lower Saucon Township back in 2015. On June 2nd, the DEP appeared in multiple areas around ICI. That's on landfill. Reading the booklet and speaking with the epidemiologist and his assistant, this study is inconclusive for public health exposure assessment due to the method that they use to collect the data. Air sample limited monitoring information. So what I'm asking council is when you get to this agenda item and you are going to send a letter to the DEP, I ask that you include a reference to this study to make sure that they pull everything and look at it. I also reached out as a resident to DEP to Dr. Ahmad Farhad, who is the epidemiologist assistant, and told him that Township is considering doing another air quality test, and is there anything that they can use to specify that they want it to be a health risk analysis included. Pretty much what they used last time is called an OPFTIR, and what that was an open path for your transform infrared spectrometer. And basically what that did was, because of the way that works, it didn't collect the data well enough to move it and transfer it into a health risk analysis. Everything is in here. I don't know if anyone had the opportunity to read this. I'm sure the township has copies of it, but it's all detailed. I'm just throwing over my notes, I'm sorry. Reference to studies, so the collection of the air sample will have conclusive results. Also include a risk analysis in the request letter as well. Reference this and do a health risk analysis, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next we have Russ Sutton.
I'm Russ Sutton. I live at 2133 Saucon Avenue. We're entitled to have our own clean air, water, and unpolluted lands. I don't know if you're aware of it, but this is a website from the State Cancer Profiles Cancer Government, where you can search for cancer incidence by race, sex, and age in 5 counties in Pennsylvania that have extremely high rates of cancer. Northampton County has a rate of 524.3 per 100,000, which is near the extreme high of the ranking. And since the Lehigh Valley has seen an influx of traffic coupled with massive increases in warehouse as well as residential housing, result in the loss of vegetation, trees, and open land, which refers to the expansion of the landfill. We have a greater increase of cancer in this Northampton County in the whole country. People are not aware of it. I have many pages of every type of cancer there is, and it's all in this area. Another thing, that how can you guarantee our health and well-being with the addition of this dump? This is the highest point in the whole township. No one knows what gets dumped there. There's no inspection of these trucks that come in there. They can be dumping heavy metals. I know they dump asbestos. I know they dump isotopes, radioactive isotopes. We don't have any protection against this. And when they dump it, it's on the top of the mountain and it gets airborne. And it depends on the prevailing winds where it blows. So if we don't know where it's going to go. And there's an awful lot of, if you go over to, I asked you before if you notified other municipalities about your intent and you said no. Well, I've taken it upon myself to go and notify all the additional municipalities of what is occurring there and get them to oppose it. This is really a bad thing. It's a bad thing for our health and welfare. And we just have a township's not a township. It consists of citizens, which we are citizens. It's not an entity on itself. I went to Northampton County for the hearing on Monday, and I saw Mr. Treadwell spend more time with waste management table than the other side. And I really object to that proposal ordinance that you're going to actually be defending waste management. When is waste management a part of this township? When are they? They're not residents of this township. They're an entity. The township consists of citizens, not entities. And without the citizens, you would not have a township, correct? So what I'm saying is, how can you protect our health and well-being? You can't.
Mr. Sutton, your time is up. I'll allow you to wrap up this slide.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, next is Russell Rice. Russell Rice.
Russell Rice, 1635 Rosary Drive. I'm the Vice President of the Saucon Valley Conservancy. Our main stewardship is the Heller Homestead. There are 3 items on your business agenda affecting the Heller Homestead. We have been doing this now for 30 years this year. And we have developed a good relationship, I think, with you, with the community and visitors who come into our area. 2 out of the 3 items have to do with windows, which are surely needed due to the infiltration of water and other things going into 2 houses, one of which was built in 1751 and the other in 1850. But I want to, most of my comments about the barn ruins. Those of you who have been there have seen what the ruins look like, and with a large fence going around it. We do need to clean up the barn ruins for a number of reasons. Safety is one major area. It's easy to get over the fence if you want to. There is a lot of debris in the area that needs to be taken out, ground needs to be leveled. Once it is cleaned up and the walls are stabilized, we have the ability to do a number of things. One, that area will be much more attractive than it was before. It'll be safe, and it'll be available for us to provide recreational activities, educational experiences, and fundraising events. And if this is done, it will enhance the Heller Homestead Park and surrounding areas, not only for our community, but for the visitors who come into our area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Appreciate it. All right, next we have Andrea Witchen. Andrea Witchen.
Andrea Witchen. I'm here to comment on item M, the yard waste collection facility. I was interested to see that there is no cost associated with the proposed facility. There's only maps and a letter, but there's no cost proposed. If I recall correctly from the debate on budget back in the fall, there was no discussion of the cost of constructing a yard waste collection facility. So I'm wondering where this unknown cost is coming from. But most of all, I'm concerned about the fact that we have a perfectly functional yard waste collection facility within the township that also does composting. As the president of the Lehigh Valley Sustainability Network, I know that this is a far more acceptable way to dispose of our yard waste and our other green matter in order to have it available to be composted. Instead, you propose to destroy more land in order to create a new facility, pave it over, bring in containers that will then be filled up and trucked off of the property, and we will have to pay to dispose of it somewhere else. I see no indication that that green matter will be composted. And again, I'm concerned about the fact that we have a functional facility right here in the township. I would propose that the more fiscally responsible approach to solving this problem is for you just to apologize to the borough of Hellertown for your egregious behavior, and that you enter into a new agreement with them in order to make the current facility functional again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Bob Lasko. Bob Lasko.
Hello again. I know there was some discussion down at the courthouse a few days ago about whether the council gave proper notice to the community as to their intentions. And I thought to myself, you know, we get flyers from the township telling us about all the things that are happening, all the big things anyway. But it seems as I went through this flyer for winter, not one mention of a landfill. Nothing. Not one iota of information. As though it doesn't even exist. Let me see. 2023 budget highlights, Saucon Valley Terrace, public swimming pool, on and on, home fire survival, library services, curb and sidewalk maintenance, recycling again. You're welcome to get one. I'm sure you have copies yet. Everybody can get one. I'm sure they would accommodate you, but unless I've gone blind, which I am partially blind, I admit that. My wife will tell you that. There's nothing in there about it whatsoever. At the meeting all the way back in August of 2013, concerns were brought up about the landfill, such as been brought up at these meetings, these last couple of meetings I've attended. The same lawyer, Garber, Marianne Garber, stood there and said that any complaints that were brought up that August had been addressed, her words, not mine, after the October meeting of 2012. I find that interesting because yesterday afternoon I talked to Matthew Vipon of the DEP. They've had so many complaints recently, they had to stop that queue and start another one. They were flooded with 12 continuous pages of complaints. And this is the state of our facility. the state-of-art facility that was complained about all the way back in 2012, that in 2013, all these concerns were taken care of. Now, I have 2 points there. One is that they're still going on. The other one is that if this is the state-of-art facility that they're claiming, there should have been no concerns in the first place. There should have been no complaints in the first place, because it never should have even got that far. Never. Shouldn't have happened. That goes on in this publication from WFMZ on that meeting. It was updated then in 2019. I mean, we all thought it was
I
rushing.
interrupt you, sir. You use up your 3 minutes. If you could wrap up this thought, please.
Yeah, I will. In 2013, after this meeting, and again, like I said, this was updated in 2019, I haven't been rushing it.
All right, Mr. Glasgow.
All the way back
Mr.
then,
Glasgow.
the landfill
Mr.
operators
Glasgow.
already were buying up.
Mr. Glasgow, you used up your time. There's others that need to speak. Thank you.
Can I remind you of your own rule? This
All right,
says
next is-
shall not, it doesn't say will.
Mr. Glasgow, you're out of order. Next up is Marco Zimic.
Good job, Bob. Marco's McReddington Road. And agenda items, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Letter R. Approve independent attorney as hearing officer to preside over conditional use hearing. Who makes that decision on who gets hired to oversee that hearing? Council?
Sir, again, this is public comment.
Okay, well, all right, I'll continue with my public comment. My public comment is, you guys should not be the only ones capable or approved to hire that attorney. Hiring that attorney should be like hiring a jury in a courtroom. You should be there, and all of us should be there, so that we can evaluate the attorney that you want to put on record. Huh? That's my point on that. As far as the dump, there's days I smell it out of my place yet, which is pretty far away, kind of. The road is still dirty. As a matter of fact, that brand new road is stained to the point now where you can't even wash the dirt out of it anymore. That brand new blacktop road is stained probably beyond repair. So you need to do something about them cleaning the trucks better, and I don't know what else I could take my time up with. I could say the Lord's Prayer again and pray for everybody and pray for you guys that things get better and you come to your senses. Because right now I don't know what the deal is. And as far as one of the local motorcycle clubs in Ellertown, I ended up having to tell him that they should all be here testifying, because if they cared about little kids, they care about putting a stop to the dump expansion that some of them agree with. Because expanding it ain't doing anything except maybe lining somebody's pocket or bringing more money into the township, as far as taxes go, and property taxes. But other than that, that's all I got. Reconsider your view on hiring an attorney and make it a public hearing before you just hire somebody that's probably going to be on your side.
Okay, thank you. Next is Victoria O.C.
Thank you very much. There are a
You
lot
identify
more.
yourself for the record, please.
Victoria Apal Cordero.
Thank you.
There are, I would consider, a voluminous number of matters on the township business item agenda list. Certainly, I couldn't speak to all of them in the 3 minutes that you do a lot. So first and foremost, on the agenda items that are listed, I would propose that you consider maybe going back to the 2 meetings per month that were very informative for the citizens, so that you could get through your agenda items and the residents could properly comment on those agenda items without going through the entire alphabet. So that's the first comment. The other thing I wanted to comment on was the air quality study, because I thought it was very curious that this showed up on today's agenda, considering we've talked about October, November, December, January, the idea that the township hasn't done any of these studies, and how impactful they would be when you're talking about 275 acres of land turning into a garbage dump. And I really appreciated Ms. Lowder's comments about making sure that the study was that in which directly provided information to the health, safety, and welfare, because what's the point in having a study if you can't use the results for any qualitative or informative purpose moving forward? So I would encourage you to, and I support Ms. Lowder's comment on that issue, but I also think it's kind of like, it's too late for that, because that's something you should have received before you ever decided to try and rezone an additional 275 acres. Clearly, if you're doing an air quality study on the current footprint of a landfill, adding another 275 acres of it doesn't kind of sound like it makes a lot of sense. The other comment I wanted to talk about was just the discussion of the independent attorney presiding over the conditional use hearing. I think it's very confusing for the citizens to, number one, comment on that if you're also going to be having an agenda item discussing potential stay of the conditional use hearing, because we have no idea what exactly you're doing. So I would again implore council to move forward and not have all of these items on the agenda, or at least allow us to comment on those specific things. Finally, I want to say that I think it's despicable that our township is standing here asking or considering the potential to join a developer in litigation against your own residents. I think you all took an oath of office, and your oath was to be independent and not to be colluding with your developers. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next is Laura Ray. Laura Ray.
Laura Ray. Yes, I have a lot of comments that overlap with others that were said. So regarding the air study, I also wondered what took so long to request this. The timing seems very questionable, and wondered why this wouldn't have been done long before you even started going and doing all the changes and approvals that you've already done. Regarding the mutual defense agreement, it seems very wrong. As Russ had stated, when I read it, I couldn't even figure it out. It says that it refers to attorney-client privilege, and I'm wondering, well, who is who? Like, are you guys the attorney or the client? Is the landfill the attorney or the client, or you're both of those things? And why do we need to help the landfill attorney? It seems very wrong. Regarding the yard waste collection facility, the map shows it labeled as a compost center. And this is a big misnomer. So that would imply that materials are composted there and residents would be able to get compost. And neither of those is true. So I think your map should be reworded there. Regarding the scheduling of the conditional use hearing at 9 o'clock on Monday, the same day as the zoning hearing, and we know that was done just to greatly inconvenience the many people that need to attend this that do work during the day. And it seemed to be implied that it's going to continue the next day at the same time period during the day. That doesn't seem really to follow the sunshine law guidelines that would allow for public participation in meetings. So maybe that can be looked at. I think the judge kind of inferred to that last week. And then regarding the agenda itself, yes, it's a mile long, and many of the items that you know are of interest to a lot of the people here are placed at the end, and this happens month after month, which shows more disrespect for your constituents and then having only 3 minutes to try to comment on so many items is, of course, inadequate because there's so many items, so I would like to see, maybe more attention given to how the agendas are put together. And if we have so much business, yes, maybe we do need a second meeting.
Okay, thank you. I think that concludes the public comment for agenda items only. We'll now move on to presentations, hearings, ordinances, and resolutions. The first item we have is Resolution 43, 2023, recognizing John Noble for his service in Lower Saucon Township. I have a copy of the resolution here, and I'd like to read it to the public. This is a resolution honoring John Noble for his dedicated service to the residents of Lower Saucon Township. Whereas John Noble served the residents of Lower Saucon Township for 19 years as a Lower Saucon Planning Commission board member, first being appointed in June of 2004 and serving as vice chair in 2017 and 2020, and as chair in 2021 and 2022. And whereas during his service on the Lower Saucon Planning Commission, John was instrumental in explaining the details of all the plan reviews, so the Planning Commission as well as the residents have a full understanding of the project. And whereas John grew up outside Boston, Massachusetts, where he attended Wellesley High School and then attended Lehigh University, where he earned his degree in 1982 and moved to Lower Saucon Township in 1986. And whereas John is a successful self-employed developer, owning a car dealership and gas station earlier in his career, he currently is the owner of a newly constructed apartment building in Wilbur Mansion, a restaurant and wedding venue. And whereas John and his wife Lynn have raised 2 daughters in Lower Saucon Township, Casey and Bailey. And whereas in his spare time, John enjoys golfing, paddle tennis, sailing, and has raced in the 635-mile sailboat race from Boston to Bermuda multiple times. He greatly enjoys spending time with his family. And whereas John will be greatly missed as a member of the Lower Saucon Planning Commission. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of Lower Saucon Township, Jason Bononis, President, Mark Gagels, Vice President, Thomas Carochi, Priscilla De Leon, and Sandra Yerger, council members, hereby honor and commend John Noble for his dedicated service to the residents of Lower Saucon Township, adopted and enacted this 15th day of February 2023. Lower Saucon Township, Jason Bononis, Council President, Mark Hudson, Secretary. I'll make a motion, and I would like to thank John for his years of service and dedication to the township. And I will gladly make a motion to approve Resolution 33-2023. I have a
Second that.
Seconded by Priscilla.
I've known John for all those years, and the residents have always respected his questioning at the meetings and asking the right questions for the residents. So really appreciated what you did on planning.
Unfortunately, John's not able to be with us tonight, but we still wanted to move forward with the resolution. Mr. Bononis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carochi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. De Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next on the agenda is are the proposed ordinances 2023-01 and 2023-02. Update. Staff will provide an update on the 2 proposed ordinances. The ordinances are found on the township website.
Sure, if council recalls, at 2 prior meetings, council authorized the advertisement of both of these ordinances and to send them to the LVPC, the Township Planning Commission, and to go through the process to amend the zoning ordinance. So we told you back then that we would bring them back when they were in their final form. That's what is in front of you tonight. Stacy, if you want, can you pull up the map for the first one?
So these didn't go anywhere yet.
Not yet.
Is it at the end?
They're, oh, I'm sorry, they were at the LVPC. Yeah.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yep.
Is it
It's at the end, yeah. So this is the ordinance that changes some of the properties in Lower Saucon Township that are located, what you're seeing now is in the 412 area. It changes that white piece to general business like we talked about before. Go to the next one, Steve. I'm sorry, go to Exhibit 1. Yeah. So Exhibit 1 is what you see is what's GB1 and GB2 now. Go to the next map. Will now be all GB. This is the ordinance that eliminates GB1 and GB2 and the township makes it just GB. Okay, next one, Stacy, please. This is in the Route 378 area. There's again existing GB2 and GB1. that you see in light blue and dark blue. Next one, please. And now you see the white with the red cross hatching, it all changes to GB. So again, GB1 and GB2, and there's more GB down at the bottom right corner there on the other side of 70. Okay, next one, please. Oh, I'm sorry, was that the last map there?
No.
Sorry.
And this is the Easton Road area property that we talked about. That's a typo on there, it's actually R42LM. So that's the R40 area as it exists today. Next.
I thought you were doing them
slide.
separately.
And that's LM. No, the Easton Road and the changes to GB are all together. The next ordinance, which is more GB and 412 is separate. So that's the updated version of the first ordinance, which is 2023-01. Okay, Stacy, please go to 02.
Let me go to maps at the bottom.
Yes, please. So here you will see on the first exhibit, a bunch of different areas being R12, MH, which is mobile home, R80 up on the top left, which is that little white piece in the top left corner. All of those changing from R40 down here in the bottom left, all of those changing from their current zoning designations to GB. Next slide. And that shows you what it will look like if and when that ordinance gets adopted. So all that area along Route 412 will then be general business.
So this is just for an update, there's no action needed tonight.
No, you already authorized advertising. We will send it out to the newspaper. We will advertise it and schedule it for a public hearing in your March meeting.
The mobile home will also go away and be turned into R12.
Yeah, that's correct. That R12 you see on the top right will match with R12 to the right. So that's the update. Again, we will advertise and schedule it for a public hearing.
All right, thank you, Lincoln. Thank you, staff. We'll put it together. There's no actions needed, so we'll move on to the next item. We're up to developer items. There are none. Next are the township business items. First is the authorization for payment number 1 to Barker Paving for the Saucon Terrace paving project. We have the invoice in front of us in the amount of $1,032,149.35 for the Saucon Valley Terrace paving project. I'll make a motion to approve payment number 1 to Barker Paving in the amount of $1,032,149.35.
Second.
Thanks, Mark.
You need a second?
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear the official.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Leon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Scherger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Manonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, the next item is the review of the engineering and traffic study for truck restrictions on Ringhofer Road, Sherryville Road, and Countryside Lane. Hanover Engineering Associates has prepared an engineering and traffic study for truck restrictions along Ringhofer Road, Sherryville Road, and Countryside Lane for council review. I thought the study was very encompassing and informative, and I'll make the motion to approve the township to write an ordinance restricting trucks on Ringhofer Road, Sherryville Road, and Countryside Lane.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandy.
Are we going to have somebody go over this for the benefit of the public, the study? Yeah.
Brian, you want to speak at all about it? I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, it's available in written form.
Yeah, I can briefly,
That would be really helpful.
yeah, so PennDOT puts guidance out on how you can restrict trucks, how you can put weight restrictions on roads, and give guidance on how to do that. So we went out and evaluated each of the 3 roads, took measurements, took photographs. I think that's all pretty well documented in the study, and we believe that, in our opinion, you can restrict trucks on those roads based on that study.
They're very narrow, very windy.
Actually, probably,
Just
isn't
for
there
the
already
minutes?
restricted?
Because we're
There are
not,
weight restrictions, yes, but a truck restriction is different. The weight restrictions were restricted, but this will allow us to sign it, no truck, which is a lot more visible than a weight restriction. Yes, you have to follow both, but the no truck restrictions are generally more I mean, if the truck's not gonna follow either one, they're not gonna follow it.
Right. No, that's good. They're both narrow and small.
Yeah. What I'd like to see is something in the minutes for posterity, because 3 years from now, if we look up the study, this isn't going to be attached. So could you just kind of go over the conclusions, Brian? So that at least they get in the minutes?
I mean, in summary, in conclusion, Greenhopper Road, Sherry Hill Road, and Countryside Lane all meet, in our opinion, the criteria based on the alignment and the width and the vertical alignment that are not conducive to the traveling of trucks, and therefore we believe you can restrict trucks on those 3 roads and sign it appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Angles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes. Sorry.
All right, our next item is the approval to purchase the culvert for Black River Road. Black River Road culvert has been limited to one lane of travel and limited weight vehicles for the past several months. The township is seeking permission to order the culvert to be installed this summer to reopen the road fully. Walker, Brian, you want to add any comments?
Sure, so we've been evaluating this structure, and we believe that an aluminum arch is the best solution to replace that bridge. It's approximately a 6-foot high arch by 11-foot wide. So we have been in contact with Context, which is a CoStar supplier of this type of culvert, and they have been in contact with Mark, which I think may have more information on cost and schedule.
Yeah, so the cost of the project, the culvert, will be $184,865. That would be for Contact to build the structure. They would bring it in and they would set it in place. Right now, the plan is our Public Works Department will be doing the excavating and getting the site ready for the new culvert to come in. Contact will come in with the vendor who will set the culvert. They'll grout it, do the skilled labor to set the culvert in place, and then Township Public Works staff will rebuild the road once the culvert is in place.
Has Contact indicated if there are any supply chain issues to secure the materials that are needed for this? I know we've had some problems elsewhere. I'm hoping that those have resolved.
If we get this ordered as soon as possible, they expect that they'll be able to get it to us in June. We are using precast wing walls, which will make the lead time a little bit longer to June. If we went just with a metal structure, then it would be a little less, but everyone agreed that the concrete structure will last longer and look much better.
Is the plan to have this constructed during the summer so it doesn't prohibit school bus traffic and other traffic that may be using that road?
That is the plan.
Okay. All right. I'll make a motion then to approve the purchase of the culvert to be installed from Contact in the amount of $184,865.
Second that.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up we have the Bethlehem landfill air sampling request for the PADEP. At the January 19, 2023 Township Landfill Committee meeting, they requested Lower Saucon Township Council send a letter to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to conduct an air quality study at and around the Bethlehem landfill. We've already heard from at least one resident in support of that, and I'm in support of it. I'll make a motion to approve the manager to send a letter to PADEP to conduct an air quality study at and around the Bethlehem Township landfill, and also to reference the 2015 study that was brought to our attention again, as well as health risk analysis and inclusion of the OPFTIR, which was mentioned previously. OPFTIR.
I'll second.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions, sir? Council? All right. Want the roll?
Ms. Schroeder, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Angles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, next we have the approval to order the upfit of 2 police patrol units. The township ordered 2 police patrol units, and once they're delivered, need to be upfitted with electronics. I'll make a motion to approve the upfitting of the 2 patrol units for a total of $31,070.
I'll second. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll second it.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Angles, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Schroeder, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next up is the discussion of police officer staffing levels. I know we have Chief Mark here with us today, and we're going to discuss police officer staffing levels.
So our current staffing levels at the police department are, we have 12 full-time police officers, which consist of 4 patrol teams with 3 officers each on patrol on the team. And that is depending on officers' time off according to the contract, sick time, and other time. Currently, we have 2 officers out on workers' comp, 2 out on FMLA, which causes scheduling challenges resulting in minimum staffing issues. And we have 1 possible upcoming retirement in early March of 2023, not been confirmed yet. We also have 3 part-time patrol officers with limited availability, and the reason I say that is 2 of them have full-time jobs, and 1 was just recently detached with the National Guard down in Alabama for 14 months. We have a sergeant who's assigned to accreditation and body camera management and administrative duties, and we're continually pulling him away to cover patrol on day shift to cover minimum staffing if we possibly can, which causes a backlog in his everyday responsibilities. And a detective corporal who's assigned to criminal investigations, which at this time in my career is the most important position we can have right now with everything that has happened in the past couple of months. And then obviously myself. Our current full-time eligibility list, and what I mean by that is people, men or women, who have taken our written exam, successfully passed it, and taken the physical assessment test and physically passed it. We currently have 3 officers on that, certified officers on that list. 2 of them are our current part-timers, which I just said. 1 has a full-time position, the other's in the National Guard, and another one who's full-time with another neighboring department. So that's where we're at with staffing right now. We've received 4 applications since August of 2022 for part-time. And part-time officers are hard to come by because of the salary. They can go to Aldi's, make more, and not that our rate is very limited. I mean, we're up there. But the commitment to get from a part-time officer, nobody wants to come and do this job if they're not getting benefits, higher salary, contract, locked in for 40 hours. The other part is when we hire a part-time officer, we have a commitment to train and equip them, which is a minimum of 160 hours. And I just threw some rough numbers together for the background through uniforms and equipment is about $9,800. And there's no guarantee that that part-time officer is going to stay with us. We could release them from field training and they could go next month to a full-time job, which makes it very difficult to get a good return out of what you're putting into them. So once our eligibility list is exhausted, we have nobody. So I'm going to have to advertise. That's where we stand with staffing issues right now. The minimum staffing overtime that we're posting within the department is probably higher, and Kathy's here. She can tell you it's the highest I've ever seen it in my career in 32 years.
Chief, I have a few questions for you. So right now, we're running 3 officers per shift, as I understand. Is that right?
That's if nobody's on vacation.
Right, ideally.
Yes.
if we were to add 4 full-time police officers, what effect would that have on staffing, scheduling, patrolling, and enforcement of crime in the township?
I'll go with the patrolling. Right now, we have our zones split up in the township into 10 zones. One patrol
I'm not
officer.
asking you to give away state secrets here.
No, I'm not giving away secrets. You know me better than that. So we have 10 zones in the township, and we split them to a 1 to 5 zone coverage, which is basically this side of 412, and then a 6 to 10 coverage, which is the other side of 412 out through Steel City. And then we have a floating officer, who's usually the supervisor, who will back up officers on calls. If we add a 4th officer to each patrol team, we can split our responsibilities up in the township and have more police on the street, obviously, and in the neighborhoods and developments. As far as scheduling, it makes scheduling a whole lot easier, and I've been doing scheduling since Chief Lesser was here, and that's like one of the biggest nightmares. Minimum staffing, we could still end up with 2 officers on minimum staffing, which is what, we don't want to go any lower than that, because nobody wants to have 1 officer on in this township. So it would help that way. It would also eliminate the part-time officers, which becomes difficult, as I just stated. So it would be a win-win straight across the board.
Kathy, how much are we paying in overtime costs now for police services? Ballpark.
Ballpark we were running last year, we were around 100,000, and for just for that.
And what is the cost of the township on average for a full-time police officer with benefits, pension, all that?
Mr. Ellison has those figures.
One officer is about 140,000 to start. So 140,000 for the first year.
Okay. And as I recall, we did have a surplus based upon tax revenue. And what was our surplus?
We'll be going over that a little bit more in March. We had, although we had no need to use any of the landfill funding that we received last year, which was 2.5 million, we do have about 5 million in reserves from there. We did use a little bit more in our
I
operating
don't think they
general
can
fund.
hear you, Kathy, in the back.
We do have over 5 million in our reserves, 3 million in our unrestricted reserve. We did not use the landfill funding, and we need that for any operating purposes last year. However, we did, over the last 5 years, we had continually gotten a surplus just in our general operating situation. And last year was the first year due to economic issues that we had to use those.
So is it fair to say that through sound fiscal management, we have the money to pay for this if we need to, if we so vote to?
Yes.
I'll make the motion. I'll give anyone to add this. I'll make a motion to direct the township manager and chief to proceed with hiring 4 full-time police officers to serve Lower Saucon Township. I understand that you have 3 on the eligibility list, so there'll be some work that needs to be done to identify a 4th. Chief, do you believe that that will be sufficient to fully staff us and provide greater public safety in light of all the issues that are happening here?
I do. I believe 4 would be sufficient, and we could make that work. I would have to advertise for the 4th position, but that would also create an eligibility list. And one thing that it would also help is down the road for future planning, just so everybody knows, there's 3 officers, and that doesn't include me. One officer is at 24 years and 3 months. Another one is at 21 years and 8 months, and the other one's going to possibly retire in March. This will assist us with a transition to move through, so we're not with a young department 5 years from now.
Yeah, and I'd like to keep our eyes on it so that we can anticipate those retirements that are coming in need. So, as I understand it, you're going to create a new eligibility list. Hopefully there's some names on there that we can look to replenish those officers that may be leaving us in the next couple of years.
Correct. And I'll work with, obviously, with Mark, and I know the Police Association and Jeremy's here will work together to come up with a plan moving forward.
Great, thank you.
Right, and I also want to say that over the years, I've always wanted the 4 officers. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I do.
And I'm glad you do. And because I always hated paying the overtime, because to me, I'd rather put that stay in our officers. So I would definitely say the 4. And that way we have better coverage. God forbid something happens, you have that backup officer. So that's always what I always was concerned about, the safety of the officers out there on the streets.
Commissioner, if I may ask, if you wanted the 4 officers, what did happen? What was the issue?
Budget issues, Tom, just didn't happen.
Well, I'm asking you because you were the one who brought it up. You were
President of council.
No, all these years, yeah, I mean, we talked about it at budget time, and there was always the certain numbers of officers, and that's how it went. I mean, Tom, do you remember anything specific?
I remember it being brought up, but I was a young officer.
Right.
How many years ago was that?
On my list. 32 years and 2 months. And I can assure you, and I will assure you, that as a township resident and an employee here this long, I'm not going to bail on you. I'm going to make sure there's a smooth transition moving forward. And that goes for all of you. I'm still going strong.
Yeah, and I think I speak for all of council. We appreciate your efforts in the entire department. You know, we've been going through some tough times recently with some break-ins and some additional criminal activity that's not necessarily locally grown, as far as we know. So we appreciate your efforts to keep us all safe, to respond to this, and act as a deterrent so we don't get in these issues. So thank you.
I want to thank you on behalf of all the officers of the department and myself for the support, not only from council, the manager, and from all the residents. It's awesome. And it just keeps getting stronger.
Did I second that?
I made the motion. I don't know if somebody seconded it.
Appreciate it. Just in a second.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
You have no idea what you just did for the wives of these officers. Thank you.
And I didn't include it as part of my motion, but obviously we want to make this happen as quickly as possible. That's understood, right?
I'll do my best.
All right, so next we have a discussion of the intergovernmental agreement with Bethlehem for a property on the corner of Moravia and Benner Streets. There's a property on the corner of Moravia and Benner Streets that's bisected by the township line with Bethlehem. An intergovernmental agreement is to be considered in reference to the property.
Stacy, can you put the site plan on the site plan? So as you can see on the plan, there's a property at the corner of Moravia Street and Benner Avenue that is located partially in the township and partially in the city of Bethlehem. I got a call a couple weeks ago from the city of Bethlehem solicitor's office asking me if we would discuss this at a council meeting, and they sent the draft intergovernmental cooperation agreement that's in your materials. So back in 1988, this property is currently vacant. But back in 1988, I think it was, there was a proposal to put 4 units on this property by the then property owner. And at that time, the township and the city had agreed that 2 of the units would be taxed in Lower Saucon as far as real estate taxes go, and 2 of them would be taxed in the city of Bethlehem. That, and the city of Bethlehem would cover all of the building permit and that type of functions, as well as police and fire services would be provided to this property by the city of Bethlehem. So that project, for whatever reason, never happened. Now there's a new proposal, which is basically 3 condominium units, as you see on that plan. And we have 2 options for council to consider. One of them being the city of Bethlehem suggested that 1 of the residential units would be taxed in Lower Saucon, and 2 would be taxed in the city of Bethlehem. And the same functionality of building permits and plan approvals all through the city of Bethlehem. This property, Lower Saucon Township currently receives 0 property tax for this property. It's taxed in the city of Bethlehem only. The other option is, and we talked about this at the staff level, is to just say, you know what, the city of Bethlehem can tax all 3 units. They're going to provide the services, they're going to do the building permit, they're going to do all that stuff. The revenue from one of these units is probably under $500 per year in property taxes because our property tax rate is pretty low for township purposes. We don't control what school district it's in or what those taxes are, but for property tax purposes between Bethlehem and Lower Saucon Township, you know, it's probably under $500 a year. So the question for council is, and the administrative involvement in collecting that amount, because we would split the parcel, it seems to be maybe not worth it, but that's for council to decide. So the question for council tonight is, which option would you prefer? Taxing 1 in Lower Saucon and 2 in Bethlehem, or just saying to Bethlehem, you're going to do everything on that property, you can keep the taxes? Whichever one you pick, we'll have to bring it back for a resolution to adopt the appropriate intergovernmental agreement. But we need to know which way we're going to go for you.
Sorry about that. I was just going to say, but then the owner is going to need to go to Bethlehem when they need something, a permit, anything like that. So it's going to be odd that they're paying us taxes, but then have to go to Bethlehem with any questions.
So currently, they're not paying us anything. They're just
Correct.
paying everything that's subject.
Correct.
I don't have a problem with it staying that way.
Yeah, I think it's less confusing for the property owners. I mean, they
Yeah,
go to the
I'm
neighbors
fine.
and have
Yeah.
perspective, and I think that just makes it more difficult.
Can we have a motion
I'll
to
make a motion to,
allow the city of Bethlehem to collect all the real estate taxes and provide all the
as
services?
stated by the solicitor.
Move a second.
Second.
Mark?
Who's second?
Mark?
All right. Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have staff is to authorize collection of 2022 delinquent real estate taxes. Staff is requesting council to authorize the Township Finance Department to forward the 2022 delinquent real estate tax list to Northampton County for collection. Kathy, do you want to add anything to this?
Other than the fact that this is pretty normal. There's no true fluctuation in the amount.
I'll make a motion to approve the Township forwarding the 2022 delinquent real estate tax list to Northampton County for collection.
Second.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next is the approval of the Saucon Valley Community Center Senior Agreement for 2023. The agreement between the Saucon Valley Community Center and the Township has been prepared for the senior program. The program will run year-round with limited summer hours. Warren, do you want to add anything?
No, we worked with the Saucon Valley Community Center on this. This is a well-run program. It's been going on in the community for years. The fee did go up a couple $100, but that was it. Everyone seemed to enjoy it, and I think it's good for our residents.
I agree, and I want to thank the Saucon Valley Community Center for its efforts to provide these services through the senior program. I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 senior program agreement.
I'll second it.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next is the Heller Homestead Sun Porch window repair. Township staff has obtained 3 quotes to repair the Heller Homestead Sun Porch windows on the door side of the porch. I will review with council for their consideration.
So at the Heller Homestead, the sun porch is in the rear of the main building. Water has been infiltrating, the wood is rotting away, so we got 3 quotes to have this repaired. The lowest quote came in from Artisanal Structures at $10,560. This is a gentleman that we had out to look at the windows at the widow's house. He has done a lot of work and was recommended to me by the Historic Bethlehem Museum and Sites. in Bethlehem. He does work on the buildings that are down along the creek and other historic buildings in Bethlehem. He also worked at the Durham Mill out of Durham along the Delaware River, and he has a couple other historic places that he is working on currently. So the lowest quote was $10,560. Council approves, we will have the windows in that area fixed and painted.
I'll make a motion to approve the quote from Artisanal Structures to repair and replace the sun porch windows at Heller Homestead in the amount of $10,560.
Second.
It's really good. Thank you for doing that, Mark, and looking into this. It's great.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have authorizing the advertisement of the bid for the refurbishment of the Heller Homestead Widow's House windows. Township staff is requesting approval to advertise the bid for the refurbishment of the Heller Homestead Widow's House windows.
So the township received a grant for this work to be done a couple years ago. The project went out to bid one time, and no bidders bid on the work. So we've modified the bid a little bit. I have been in contact with Russ and the Saucon Valley Conservancy. We're going to put the bid out the window to refurbish the windows. Again, I had a contractor, actually a gentleman who is working on the Lutz Franklin house currently, and Artisanal Structures come out and review the windows. They helped me put together a bid spec for what they would do at each window, and actually Roger was with me. Both of them said pretty much the same thing. So we're going to put it out, and we're going to ask for a per window price. So each window is going to be looked at individually. If the bids come in above our grant amount, then we're going to, I'm working with Link to put language in the bid that we will be able to pick the worst windows and get those fixed under the bid. And then we'll have to come up with a second plan to repair the other windows. So at this time, we're looking for council to approve us putting the windows at the widow's house for Heller Homestead back out to bid.
I'll make a motion to advertise the revised bid for the refurbishment of the Heller Homestead Widow's House windows, and hope that we are more successful than last one.
And I'll second that. And then I have a question after.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So I think you have a question?
Yes, I do, thank you so much. If you're looking at, I don't know which picture this is, the one that shows the one side where the logo doors.
That's B.
Are we gonna look into this?
Yeah, we can get that payment.
And
Right now, I'm concentrating.
I understand that, and I appreciate that. I
Yep.
don't mean to sidetrack.
No, you're good.
But that needs to be
Nope.
on a list somewhere.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next item we have is the Heller Homestead barn rooms. Clean up Public Works will clean up the area inside the barn rooms, removing stone and lumber. This will give us in the Saucon Valley Conservancy a better view of the existing wall and area to evaluate how to proceed. Mark Engels, I recall that you went out and looked at this, right? You want to share your observations with us?
As you all know, it's pretty messy over there. And it's been that way for 30 years, maybe, give or take. Because I think Roger, when he first started here, cleaned it all up after it fell down. So it's about time, I think, we move ahead on this. And our goal is to clean up the inside of the four walls to see what we have. There's a lot of rubble in there that is not from the barn, and a lot of wood that is also not from the barn. So we're going to remove all that, and probably take some machines, either a skid loader or something, and just clean it all up. So we have the four walls exposed on the inside. And then we're going to make an assessment as to what we can do with those walls, whether we need to footer them, whether we need to restructure them, whether we need to cap them. There's a lot of options that I think we need to first see what's there before we can decide how we want to proceed. But we can't do anything until we at least clean it up and see what we have. And you can't even walk around or anything like that. So our hope is that we can stabilize the remaining walls and the arch and clean up the whole inside, and whether there's a cement foundation or a floor, we don't know. But if that's the case, we'll clean that up, and if not, we'll plant grass. And then you can have a nice place in there to actually take pictures, have meetings, all the stuff that was talked about earlier. I think it's gonna be really good. And then we talked about with the old stone that's surrounding it all, perhaps storing that elsewhere in case we have a future use for it somewhere down the road. And also using some of it to maybe restructure what's already there.
Mark, thanks for that update,
Yeah,
and
sounds
thanks for
great.
taking the lead on that. This
Yeah.
is something that's long overdue, and I think it will improve the property quite a bit.
I think it's gonna look really nice. I think it has some nice options there.
Because we have the photo up behind me, where you can see the area in the yellow that's highlighted, and it's kind of like an orange tint to it. We're going to go into that area. As Mark said, there's lumber from old buildings that unfortunately has just deteriorated, doesn't have any value left to it. We're going to remove that. We're going to remove the piles of stone. We'll clean up the weeds, just so that we can start to get a good view of what is in there in this first piece. There is the piece, if you look over to that side, we're not going to get into that yet. Our first step, and this is going to be a multi-step process, but the first step is just to clean this area that's highlighted up, and so we can see what we have, like Mark said, and Russ said. So, and the Conservancy was very excited about this happening.
Do we need a motion link to approve this undertaking, or?
This was kind of an
I
update.
think it was just an update, yeah.
Yeah, you approved.
We're looking into doing whatever needed to be done before.
I just got a word from Roger, though. He said, make sure he has approval to do it.
I'll make a motion to approve Public Works cleaning up the area inside the barn rooms, removing the stone and lumber, to give the township and Saucon Valley Conservancy a better view of the existing wall and area, and then we can reevaluate as to how to next proceed.
I'll second that.
Misty Lim, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have yard waste collection facility in Lower Saucon Township. Lower Saucon Township is looking to open the yard waste collection facility in April of this year for residents to drop off their yard waste. Mark?
Yes, so the township is in need of a yard waste collection facility. The township is proposing, staff is proposing to use the corner of the Townsend property. Stacy, the detail. That's fine.
Is that what the one you wanted?
Yep, that's fine. So we're proposing to use the corner of the Townsend property. This would be laid in by our staff. We'd just use millings that we have on site, so there would be no cost for materials. Dumpsters would be brought in from Victory Gardens to collect the yard waste in, and then the yard waste would be taken to the Victory Gardens Center and would be composted by Victory Gardens. This would be just a collection site. There would be no composting. I have been in contact with DEP, and we are permitted to do this. We do not need a permit. I do need to get DEP just some information on where the site is and what we will be collecting and where the material will be going. So we would keep the schedule the same. We'd open Friday, April 21st, and we'd be open through Saturday, November 17th, open on Fridays and Saturdays. Items accepted would stay the same as it was: the leaves, the small brush, the hedge trimmings, and Christmas trees without tinsel. And items not accepted would be grass, sod, tree stumps, commercial businesses. Again, so the staff is recommending to use the corner of the Townsend property right across from the high school stadium to utilize that for our yard waste collection facility.
Mark, just a question about this. This will be operated by Township Public Works staff, correct?
Correct.
And there won't be any additional cost for labor to do this, right?
There will be additional cost for labor. We used to have one person, we now have two people working it.
Okay. And how much it cost for Victory Gardens to take the materials away?
That is $300 per dumpster. The dumpsters would be removed when they were filled, or they would have to be removed every 3 weeks.
Okay. So, as I recall, our contributions last year to the compost center, joint compost center, were about $12,000 a year.
It was 10,005, and we budgeted that amount, so.
So we expect that the cost of this will be less than what we were paying last year.
It'll probably be equal to.
And it's centrally located to both sides of the township, right off of Hope Valley Road, correct?
Yes.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed yard waste collection facility through Victory Gardens in the manner described by the township manager for April of this year for Lower Saucon Township residents.
I'll second it.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
For the vote now.
Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, next item is approval to purchase an asphalt roller aerial truck compact loader grader attachment. As approved in the 2023 Budget, Council authorized the replacement of the aerial truck, asphalt roller, and grader. The manager will review the council.
Correct. We have been working on getting quotes for these items. As with everything currently, the equipment is tough to get. We did find a Ford F550 chassis that we hope is still available for $66,160. So that's a cabin chassis. We would then take that to Verilift and have a lift put on it. So that's a bucket that the guys can go up and clean branches, do electrical in. The cost for the aerial truck complete is $195,643. It is above the budget. The budgeted amount is what, the original quote that we got was $175,000. Unfortunately, with the quotes, everything has gone up significantly. Actually, every item has gone up significantly. So the aerial truck was $195,643, and that would be 2 POs. The level best grader attachment was another item that we had asked for. This would go on the front of our skid steer to make grading. We have a grader from 1970 that doesn't work very well at this time. It's outlived its usefulness. So the level best grader attachment is $49,824. The original budgeted amount for that was $45,000. And then a Dynapack asphalt roller would be a new roller. This is the finish roller, so it's the smaller roller that you see when the guys are out paving the road. This does the edges of the road. It does intersections where the road hits, a side road or a driveway. So we're looking to purchase a Dynapack asphalt roller for the amount of $55,849.52. With this, we do have a trade-in. They will take our case roller and they will be giving us $11,500. That'll be asked to be approved at the next agenda item here. So the total cost of that would be $44,349.52 after the trade-in. Budgeted amount was $50,000.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the aerial truck in the amount of $195,643, the level best grader attachment in the amount of $49,824, and the Dynapack asphalt roller in the amount of $55,849.52, subject to the $11,500 trade-in that would reduce the cost of the Dynapack asphalt roller to $44,349.52.
I'll second that.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, the next item we have is authorization to sell public works equipment, police interceptor sedan on municipal. Staff is requesting authorization to place the following equipment on municipal. Public Works Equipment 2008 Case DB201 asphalt roller, 2008 Freightliner M2 class with a mobile lift 42-foot aerial truck, 1970 Gallon T400 grader, and 2009 Dodge Durango, as well as the Police Department 2013 Police Interceptor sedan and Vermac model number SP710, serial number 14-10293, speed trailer.
Just the speed trailer does not work any longer, so that's why we're looking to get rid of that. The only other item I'd like to note is the aerial truck that we currently have. We will not get rid of or put on municipal bid until we get the new aerial truck in our possession. Again, we wouldn't do that for the case roller either, but that's a trade-in. So the case roller will be traded in, everything else will be placed on municipal bid.
I'll make a motion to approve selling the 2008 Case DB 201 asphalt roller, 2008 Freightliner M2 class mobile lift 42-foot aerial truck, again, both subject to the replacement items coming in. The 1970 gallon T 400 grader, 2009 Dodge Durango, 2013 Police Interceptor sedan with Vermac model number SP710, serial number 14-10293, speed trailer.
I'll second it.
Mr. Manonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Sugar, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have authorization for the township solicitor to fully defend the procedural and substantive validity challenges relative to the adoption of ordinance 2022-02. The council will discuss and take action in regard to authorizing the solicitor to fully participate and defend the procedural and validity challenge and substantive validity challenge filed in the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County and with the zoning hearing board of Lower Saucon Township respectively. Lynn?
As you are aware, there have been 2 validity challenges filed pertaining to ordinance 2022-02. One is in the Northampton County Court of Common Pleas, the other is in front of the Lower Saucon Township zoning hearing board. So if you want me to fully participate in both of those proceedings and defend ordinance 22-02, that would take a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the solicitor to fully participate and defend the procedural validity challenge and substantive validity challenge filed in the Court of Common Pleas of Northampton County and with the zoning hearing board of Lower Saucon Township respectively.
I'll second.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Sugar, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Manonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, next we have discussion and potential action regarding the motion to stay of conditional use proceedings. Attorney Gary Asti has requested a stay of conditional use proceedings as described in his correspondence from January 19, 2023, regarding the application filed by the Bethlehem Landfill Company on January 6, 2023. The township solicitor will discuss the request and make a recommendation to council for official action.
Is this part of the February 9th hearing that you were at?
Was it part of the February 9th hearing? Not technically. It's the same request, but this one's for council, that was for the court. That was filed under the procedural validity challenge when we were in court on February 9th. This was filed pursuant to the zoning hearing board challenge. So it's technically 2 different things, although the request is the same.
Because I know in between meetings, the hearing.
Priscilla, I didn't recognize you yet. They handed it off to Lynn when he's done. Anybody can ask questions. So please proceed.
So your last meeting was January 18th, and we received this, the township received this letter from Attorney Aztec on January 19th. I informed him that we would place it on the next available council agenda, which is this one, to discuss. It is basically a request to stop and stay the conditional use hearing due to the fact that a substantive validity challenge was filed with the Lower Saucon Township zoning hearing board. As Priscilla alluded to, a similar request was filed under the procedural validity challenge with the Court of Common Pleas. That request was denied. During that proceeding, as a couple people alluded to here tonight, I was present and argued that the stay should be denied based on the potential for a deemed approval if a stay goes into effect. And I thought that was just too risky for the township and everyone involved to have a deemed approval. So my recommendation to you tonight is that you deny this stay as well for the same reason, the potential for a deemed approval here And it's even greater actually now if council grants the stay than if the court had granted the stay. So my recommendation is to deny the stay.
So any questions? Henry?
Well, I think he pretty much answered it. My question was, he was at that hearing, and we didn't have a meeting to authorize his presence there. I mean, I was just wondering, that's all.
Yeah, no, it came up very fast. We didn't have a meeting. It was filed ahead of time. As the township solicitor, I'm in charge of the legal affairs of the township, so I'm forced to attend the hearing.
Yeah, I mean, Link, I understand, the risk of this, if we were to grant this stay of the conditional use proceedings, is that it could be deemed, it could remove the conditional part of this, and therefore, there would be no conditions placed upon the property that's now been rezoned light industrial. And the risk of that is that, anything could be done on that property, including all 275 acres of the property. Whereas now, what was proposed by the landfill, I believe, was roughly 41% of the entire footprint of the property. So the risk to the township to put this stay in place, will be highly problematic to our ability to have any level of oversight or control over the future development of that property.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason that, it became a conditional use for this type of industrial use, as opposed to a special exception, was so that council could exert a certain amount of reasonable control over what it looks like. And if there's a potential deemed approval, all that goes up over that.
And I just want to be clear here. This council does not have the final say in any landfill activity that will take place on that property. We would need to go to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, which has the ultimate say. Isn't that correct?
There are multiple different approvals that are required. The final one probably being the DEP approval, right? And if DEP approval doesn't happen, the project won't happen.
I'll make a motion then to direct the solicitor to respond to Attorney Perry Astee's January 19, 2023, rejecting his request for a stay of the conditional use proceedings.
You said reject.
Reject.
I'll second that.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
I guess if I don't go along with the rejection, my answer would be getting confused here. No. I don't want to reject it, because I'm not in favor of any of this.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Kirsch, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, the next item we have is the approval of an independent attorney as a hearing officer to preside over the conditional use hearing CU-01-23, Bethlehem Landfill, authorizing the township solicitor to participate in the conditional use hearing CU-01-23 for the purpose of representing any township employee or consultants who may be subpoenaed to testify. So both the solicitor and the manager, township manager, are recommending that Attorney Scott McNair be appointed as a hearing officer, as the hearing officer, to preside over the conditional use hearing CU-01-23 Bethlehem Landfill.
May I ask the question?
I want to hear from you first, we don't recognize you.
So after council made this motion at your last meeting, Mark Hudson and myself started to look for an independent attorney to conduct the conditional use hearing. I started by looking outside of Northampton County and made a bunch of phone calls to lawyers that I know in Bucks County, asking who they would recommend for this type of a proceeding. It was pretty much unanimous that everyone would recommend Attorney Scott McNair. I do not know Attorney Scott McNair. I did not know him prior to me calling him and asking him if he would be interested in doing this. I don't believe anybody on council knows Attorney Scott McNair. Anybody? No? And Mark Hudson also made some phone calls to some solicitors and attorneys that he knows, and I'll let him tell you what he...
Yeah, I called my past solicitor, and their firm also uses Scott McNair. They've used him for a landfill, and they're using him for a hearing out in Derry Township currently.
A quarry, and a hearing out in, right? A quarry.
Yeah.
So after we all made those phone calls, Mark and myself, I called Attorney McNair, asked him if he would be interested. He said he would be. He sent us a letter of interest and his resume. Mark Hudson and I met with him last Friday, and discussed the issues with him. I was impressed. I think Mark was impressed as well. And I think he would be an excellent selection to conduct this hearing.
Can I ask a question? Yes. Okay. So this is something unusual. We never, in my years, never done something like this way. So could you explain to me, and I guess the residents, how this is going to happen?
Sure. If council appoints the hearing officer, Attorney McNair, as we're recommending, then the hearing officer will preside over the conditional use hearing. The hearing officer will conduct the hearing. The hearing officer will then, at the conclusion of the hearing, make proposed recommendations to this council, and then this council will take the final vote on the conditional use application. The procedure is outlined in section 908 of the municipality's planning code. There are time frames involved as to the number of days between the end of the hearing and when the recommendations come to council, and then from when council gets the recommendations to when council has to make the final decision on the application. But they're all spelled out in section 908 of the MPC.
Okay, so if I had a specific question to ask a hearing, how do I do that?
As a council member?
I don't know. I've never done this before, so I'm asking what my options
He's
are.
asking, are you there as a council
there
member?
as a council member, or are you there as a citizen?
All I can say that in the past, when we had zoning hearing board special exceptions, when we went before the zoning hearing board, I know I asked questions as a resident, I was able to, and then, voted on it as council.
What was the answer to the question? Are you there as a council member or as a citizen?
I'm asking if I could do both. I'm not really sure.
She is both. I don't think you can go to the hearing and represent that you're representing this council.
Oh, no, I
unless this
understand.
council votes to
Now,
do
am I
that.
that stupid, please, Link? No, I understand that. I can say I'm a councilwoman on this council. I'm not representing the council. I never did that. Okay.
So this hearing is the conditional use hearing, and the procedures are very similar to the zoning hearing board hearing and procedures. So if somebody wants to become a party, they can ask for party status. That will then be
So I can do that if
determined
I
by the
wanted to
hearing.
then.
So let him finish answering, please.
If you want to be a party as an individual citizen, you could ask for party status, as could any resident. That gets determined then by the hearing officer as to whether party status is granted or not.
So then technically, we're not sitting up here as a body with the hearing officer. He's independently sitting there by himself.
Correct.
I didn't understand that when we approved the hearing officer. I just wasn't in this situation before.
And Link, so you're done?
Come on, Ed.
I'll let you finish.
No, I'm not thinking of it. I might think of another question, but right now I don't.
Just so it's perfectly clear, the officer to preside over the conditional use hearing has no authority to determine the conditional use. That will come back to this council after he gathers the evidence, after he takes testimony, after he receives documents. He will then issue to us findings of fact and law, correct?
He will issue recommendations to you in a form that he determines to be.
But his recommendations are not binding upon us.
They are not.
The recommendations, and then it's for this council to accept or reject those recommendations.
That's correct. The hearing officer is basically conducting the fact-finding hearing and then making recommendations based on the testimony.
And the gentleman that you identified, Attorney McNair, has a specialty in doing this, and he's done this in other matters and continues to do it.
He has done this on multiple occasions.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to make two motions. I'm going to bifurcate this business item. The first one is I'm going to make a motion first to approve the independent attorney, Scott McNair, as a hearing officer to preside over the conditional use hearing CU01-23 Bethlehem landfill pursuant to the terms set forth in his February 9, 2023 letter to Lynn Treadwell. Do I have a second?
Second. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, we got it. Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, and the other motion I'm going to make is a motion to authorize the township solicitor, Lynn Treadwell, to participate in conditional use hearing CU-01-23 for the limited purpose of representing any township employees or appointed consultants who may be subpoenaed to testify.
Second.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, the next item we have is the discussion of potential action regarding a joint defense agreement for ordinance 2022-02 validity challenges. The proposed joint defense agreement will protect all communications, information, documents, and other information related to the defense of ordinance 2022-02 to the township solicitor, and any counsel for the Bethel Landfill Company for disclosure pursuant to discovery, or right to know act request. Lee?
Sure, so as you're aware and as we just discussed, there are two validity challenges for pending for ordinance 2022-02. This joint defense agreement would protect communications to the extent that the township's interests are aligned with the interests of the property owner. The township's interests in this matter are not always aligned with the interests of the property owner, and Mr. Sutton alluded to earlier, there was a hearing, and actually I was sitting in the middle with Attorney Heitzman, and the property owner was on one side and the objectors were on the other side. So we're not always on the same page, but to the extent that we may be on the same page with some issues, what this agreement would do would protect any communications that I might have with their counsel from disclosure pursuant to a right to know act request or a discovery request. Because if it is not, if we do not sign this agreement, then any communications that I have with a third party are not covered by any privilege. So this creates a privilege so that somebody on the other side cannot look into what the strategy is that we may utilize.
And just so that I'm clear, one of the main goals or intents is to protect the conditional use 60-day time period that we have to make a determination so that it doesn't become as of right.
Yeah, I mean, that was for the stay. What this joint defense agreement is actually for the challenges where we are defending.
I understand.
Correct.
And like, this is pretty normal?
Yes, it's not normal for townships because, but in the normal course of litigation, it's normal for two sides on the same issue to do this type of agreement.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So why does the township have to collaborate with the landfill to defend this action?
Well, the township isn't collaborating with the landfill. The township was named as an appellee in two actions, and the landfill intervened as it has a right to do as the property owner in support of the adoption of the ordinance. So it's not collaboration, we just have to be both on the same side of the issue.
Okay, I just wanted to get an
Sometimes.
answer, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed joint defense agreement to protect all communications, information, documents, and other information related to the defense of Lower Saucon Township Ordinance 2022-02 between the township solicitor, and any counsel for the Bethel Landfill Company for disclosure pursuant to discovery right to know act request.
I'll second.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
No.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, the next item we have is a discussion of moving the March council meeting to Wednesday, March 22nd. As I understand, there are several members of council that have a conflict on March 15th, so I'll make a motion to move the March 15, 2023 Township Council meeting to the following Wednesday, March 22, 2023, at the same time, 6:30 p.m. And direct township staff to advertise appropriately.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Sandy.
Mr. Carucci, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next, miscellaneous business items. We're up to Bullet A, approval of the January 3, 2023 council minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the January 3, 2023 council minutes. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Sam.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. Sugar, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
I'm going to abstain, I was on the phone, and I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
Well, doesn't that validate any, all his votes then? Because if he can't hear, he's participating by.
No, I could hear it when I voted. If I took a vote, I
Then
couldn't
why
hear
are we
it.
voting no to the motion?
I'm abstaining.
That has to only be financial. When you abstain, it's financial.
Can I do that, Mike, or not?
I think we've had multiple people abstain over the years on many different things, sometimes when they weren't here. So if Mr. Croce didn't have,
I think you need to do some research
I
on the
know,
sunshine law.
I don't think the sunshine law says anything about abstaining.
No, I think it has to do with hearing and
That's my vote.
participating by
Motion passes 4-1 abstention.
Just to prove conservative with all that, I went through and I glanced at the council minutes from January 3, 2023. There was not one vote that was by a margin of 3-2, so whether or not Tom's vote mattered is of no consequence to this discussion.
That's
Is that correct, Lee?
that opinion.
Correct.
All right, next we have the January 18, 2023 council minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the January 18, 2023 council minutes.
I'll second that, but I also have a correction. It would be page 2 of 27, line 4. At the end of that paragraph, what is missing is my last comment, which says, no, I did not say I didn't want to answer. If that sentence could be included in the minutes.
I'm sorry, so you said what page?
Page 2 of 27,
What line?
line 4. 2 of 27.
So if I'm reading it correctly, it says Bruce Petrie said he's not going to get into the legalities of everything. He and his wife are legal appellants.
21, I'm sorry, page 21. I'm sorry, I thought it was a slash. Page 21 of 27.
What line?
It would be page 21 of 27, line 4. So the paragraph ends, but it should say, no, I didn't say I didn't want to answer.
My motion is to approve the council minutes without any corrections. I can't speak to that, Priscilla, that you
I
said that.
listened to the tape and I said that. You're more than welcome to listen to the tape. It was in there. And the staff should be typing what was said, and that is an important part of that paragraph. So I understand why you don't want that in there, but I do want it in there. So the record tonight will reflect that I asked to have it included.
Why don't we table and get verification? Just
That would be
table-
wonderful,
table
I
council
think.
minutes.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that's good. That's a good idea.
Table and get verification.
That motion tabled, Tom?
Yep.
I'll
I'll
second.
move table.
Marcus, can you direct staff to give remainder of council audio recordings of that portion of the meeting?
Yep.
And I don't need the entire audio to get to it.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
To table. Ms. Sugar, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We have approval of the January 2023 financial reports. The January 2023 financial reports are ready for council review and approval. Is there anything you want to highlight for us?
No, there's pretty safe for the beginning of the year.
I agree, thank you. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the January 2023 financial reports.
I'll second.
Ms. Sugar, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Benonis, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Croce, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ms. DeLeon, how do you vote?
I'm voting no.
Mr. Engels, how do you vote?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, so it's been an hour and 40 minutes, not too bad. We've gotten through opening public comments, presentations, hearings, developer items, township business items, and miscellaneous business items. So now we are up to council and staff reports. First up, Mark.
Yes, we had a volunteer, Mr. Noble, who resigned from the planning commission. So we were looking for volunteers. If you know of anyone or you would like to volunteer for the planning commission, you could reach out to me. We do have a couple of applications already. We will put an ad on Facebook and Constant Contact. Spoke with the Vistacom audiovisual company. They're planning to do the installation of the audiovisual upgrade in the room on March 28th. Christmas tree collection. The Christmas tree collection that we had here at the Township Building saw 93 residents dropping off trees and other yard waste materials for the township to recycle. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Mark. All right, next up are council and junior council member reports. I'm going to jump the line a little bit because I have Rudra's junior council report. So I'd like to read that for the record. So Rudra cannot be with us this evening. He's a member of the Saucon Valley High School basketball team. They're playing this evening at Catasauqua for the semifinal Colonial League game against Southern Lehigh. I've gotten an update from them, and they won. All right, great news. Congratulations to the high school basketball team as they are now in the final Colonial League.
Good for them.
Yes.
That's great.
So Rudra reported that the Saucon Valley High School is presenting Mary Poppins with shows on March 9th through the 11th at 7 o'clock p.m. and March 12th at 2 o'clock p.m. Tickets are on sale now. You can access the ticket link on the Saucon Valley School District website, and you can follow the music review. So thank you, Rudra, for sharing that with us. Now on to council reports. Let's start with Mark.
Pretty much, a lot of what I had was the Heller Homestead, which we covered most of that. And we did have a discussion at Parks and Rec about some softening of the fencing at the Steel City Park. And I've talked to multiple people in Steel City, and I've gotten positive responses and negative responses as to the fencing. So, a little bit of a quandary now. So what I'm going to suggest we do is, Mrs. Louder asked me to do this, so I'll probably meet with her since she seems to have a good pulse of Steel City. And Priscilla, feel free to jump in as well. I'm going to suggest we soften the fencing, because I think they're there for safety and other purposes, from what I gathered initially. So I think we might try to do some landscaping with minimal maintenance, just to try to soften the fencing.
You do know the story about the fencing, right? When it was installed, it was like bright silver, it looked like a prison.
Yep, I heard some stuff about that, yes.
And,
It's weathered down a little bit,
it did.
but it serves a purpose.
Well, because the other one was shorter, so this one was higher.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. But I think Mark said he'd go out with me as well, and we'll look at that.
So you can let me know if I'm available. I'll
Okay.
be with you too.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
And then the other discussion we had at Parks and Rec was about the original plan for a community center out at the Polk Valley Park. Now, I don't know if this will have any legs or not, but I think Stacy or was it you or Carol? I think Carol's going to pull it up. Carol was going to pull it up. So we'll discuss that at the next Parks and Rec meeting, see if there's anything there.
Great.
That's pretty much what I have.
All right, thanks, Mark. Sandy?
I have nothing
Okay. So,
Yes, I have a few things. I had asked Mark to update the solicitor's expenses for the library, which stopped at, I believe it was the end of November of last year. And the new report for what solicitor fees paid for the library for all of 2022 and for the January of 2023, Link was paid $44,302. Eckert Siemens for October was $7,647. November, $17,876.61. December, $38,586.27. Totaling $64,109.88. So altogether, that adds up to $108,411.88 spent for the library that we still don't have access to. So that's that. I do have a couple other things, but I can get my phone back. I also want to thank Mark. I love this board docs. I think that's the greatest invention. So thank you. Very good. I did a correction for the, well, we're going to correct on that. And what I'd like to do, the Hellertown Lower Saucon Chamber, save the date, May 24th. They're going to be doing honors and hors d'oeuvres at the Heller Dimick Park for, they're going to honoring 5 awardees, which will be announced. So save the date for that. And I guess I want to ask the meeting during the solicitor, to your knowledge, are you aware of any of my Facebook posts that were not public that I put, that I should have? Are you aware of any? Link?
I'm not on Facebook, so I never look at Facebook
Okay, because
or any other social media.
okay. All right, and then what I'd like to do is, the last meeting, Jason, you brought up, you found minutes from the Hellertown from their 12/12/22 meeting, and you said they identified me as a collaborator. I'd like to play, if I can do this, because I'm not the tech queen here, but what I'd like to do is, this is the actual tape from the Hellertown Borough meeting. I'm going to try to
Said
see.
executive session.
Excuse me?
What's that said in executive session?
No, it was said out here. There was a lot more stuff said in executive session that I can't talk about that you brought it up.
I can't hear it.
Nobody can hear it.
Yes, hi everybody. This is a sad day. When I was elected to council way back when, we weren't talking, and I was like shocked at a community that was so intertwined with each other, sharing the school district. We're talking, and I just worked real hard to start up the ad hoc committee that wasn't meeting, and we started meeting, I think, on a monthly basis. Now I'm going way back, and we started talking and sharing what's going on in each other's community, and that led to the Council of Governments with our Saucon Valley partnership, which led to asking the school district to join us as the 3 entities. And it was great. We shared services. We worked, the managers and the superintendent worked together, and we were building the groundwork for joint efforts in our community, which is what I always thought you should do. But I don't know. The last 18 months with the library and with the compost center, and we're making lists now. I try to get information. I bring it up under my reports about library, and you're absolutely right. I learned more watching Link at the Southern Lehigh School Board meeting, and I don't know how long he talked, whatever, than I knew in the whole 18 months. I learned a lot. I shouldn't be in that position. As a council member, I'm supposed to know what's going on. I'm 1/5 of that council. So I ask questions, and most of the time I don't really get answers. So I'm sorry, I understand what you have to do. And hopefully one day we'll get back, and it'll be hard, but I'm willing to try anyway.
Okay, so that was my collaboration, just for the record. Whoops.
Yes, hi, everybody. This is a sad day.
So I just wanted to add that for the record, please, because that was serious accusations, and I didn't write their minutes. Didn't see their minutes until you brought it up at the meeting, and I did go on their website, and I did see where the word was in there, but you all heard it, so I just want to set the record straight. So that's not on my report. I have a couple more things.
Just related to that though, can the township go back and look at listen to the recording of our meeting? She made an accusation and she said that you said publicly that she colluded. That did not happen in the executive session. She's saying that happened in a public.
It did, it's in the
public
minutes.
meeting.
It did.
Yes, it did. I have it on tape.
Absolutely. That's why I added that one sentence at the end of that paragraph on page
Okay.
21
I just wanted to-
of 4. Oh, yeah, I would never have thought that was an executive session. I'm talking about this was public, and I wanted to defend my reputation that wasn't true.
Okay.
So, and anytime somebody says something about me that's not true, I'm going to do it on record. So, you didn't read the minutes. Link, I had asked the manager to give me the transcripts from, what did I ask you for? A bunch of transcripts from the court. And one of the pages for the library, I believe, was that there was a hearing coming up tomorrow on the 16th in Harrisburg. There was a hearing. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, that's been postponed.
Oh, so do you know when it's going to be?
Maybe not.
Okay, will we be getting word that when it's going to be?
As soon as I know, I sent to Mark the notice of the hearing the first time. As soon as I know anything more,
Okay, well, I appreciate it as a council member because you're supposed to be informing your clients. I believe that's part of your duties as an
I
attorney.
did. I sent it to the township.
Okay, so.
So let me finish answering your question you're going to ask. Go ahead, I didn't know what you said. I didn't know what you said.
Oh, I said I did. I sent it to the township and notified Mark, and he sends it out to the council. I don't tend to directly email council. I send it to the township.
Thank you, that's good, thank you. I asked about the conditional use hearing. I believe that's all, thank you so much.
Tom?
Yeah. EAC meeting and we reviewed the steel club plans. Didn't have any real recommendations. We also reviewed a lot line change for the Simcoe property. No recommendations for council. Planning did hold a meeting in January, and I don't have the letter. I don't know if it can be pulled up, but there were some recommendations to council. I don't know if you can pull that up. If you have it, Mark. I'm looking for the money emails from Molly, and I don't see it.
I don't have it with me. I can try to look for it.
Okay. I'll look for that. I'll do that. The letter from planning.
Oh, yeah, we did get that as an email recently.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
couldn't find it. I can't find it. I'll go on to look for that. If not, I'll talk about it next week.
That was on the,
The landfill presented their plan to the planning. There were some recommendations to council.
Well, you know, we can go over that now, or that could be brought up again, Tom, when we have the review of the conditional use hearing findings.
Yeah, if we don't have it, then I'll go on. All right. Kathy provided me some numbers. From the library card reimbursement program, there were 45 individual reimbursements for $900 and 87 family reimbursements for $3,480 for a total of 132 reimbursements so far for $4,380. So I think, for the longest time, we asked the Hellertown area library for usage numbers. They never provided them. They would say that there was 3,100 residents that had library cards. They didn't say that they used the library, they had library cards. So far we have 87 families, so more than 132 people, 45 individuals at a cost of $4,380 for library access. Just to break that down, we budgeted $160,000 for library services. So we've only used $4,380 of it. There are legal fees as well. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, last year I believe they wanted $107,000.
Don't give me the finger.
Don't
give me the finger, man. Please conduct yourself appropriately. If you can't do that,
If
please
you
leave.
do, I will. Thank you.
So last year, they wanted $107,000. We offered $50,000, which they rejected. But for these 132, it basically would have been $810 per library card for these 132 library cards that were issued under last year's rates. So I think that's. And for a library, we had no say over, and with a borough who was not an equal financial partner with us. We didn't want to be equal financial partners. So, just an update on the numbers. All right, that's my report, Jason.
All right, thank you.
Oh, yeah, do you have that? Yeah. You got that? Right.
You had $140,000.
So on the planning, we had a meeting January 26th. The motion was made by Craig Pelosi, recommended that, and approved by the planning, recommended that the applicant discuss and address to the satisfaction of the township engineer all the comments in the Hanover engineering letter dated January 24th, 2023. Recommended that council of Lower Saucon Township consider adding a third party to any conservation easement offered by the applicant. Recommended that the council consider long-term impacts on roadways used by the applicant and consider conditions to address those impacts. Recommended that council consider air quality, water quality, stormwater, and other environmental issues during the conditional use and land development process. Recommended that the applicant provide studies or other evidence as well as comprehensive plans for the future that address air quality, water quality, stormwater, and groundwater issues. And the final recommendation was to provide a detailed explanation of operational issues, including collection and disposal, noise, dust, odor abatement procedures. And it was this was voted on 5-0. Mr. Jazzy was absent from that meeting, so it was 5-0. Thank you, Mark. Sorry.
You yield, Tom?
Thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank Link and Mike Miller's firm. The monies we paid them, I think, were a sound investment. Before the outcome with the numbers, $4,380. You know, this is money well spent because I think that will be sustained savings over years. So thank you for that. Link, can you give us an update on the right to know request that you had directed to the Town Library?
I think it was back in December, maybe, the right to know request was submitted to the Lower Saucon Library asking for some documents. The Lower Saucon Area Library did not respond to that right to know request, so an appeal was filed with the Office of Open Records, Pennsylvania Office of Open Records. The Office of Open Records issued a determination that stated that the Lower Saucon Area Library is subject to the Right to Know Act, and therefore they needed to either appeal the OOR decision or respond to the township's request within a 30-day period. I found out late last week sometime that the Lower Saucon Area Library had appealed the OOR's determination to the Northampton County Court of Common Pleas. So that will be proceeding in another court case.
So that's transparency. The other item I wanted to discuss was Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. So there were, the past couple of meetings, we've had residents come in and talk about findings that were made by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission with regard to our rezoning over on Apple Road. And Interestingly, when I went to the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission website, conspicuously missing were the minutes from the November 17, 2022 hearing that they held with regard to our zoning ordinance and map amendment. So I contacted them, and they confirmed that yes, they were missing. They provided me with a copy, and I thanked them for that. So, just to summarize what were in those minutes, because I don't think that was ever borne out in any of our public meetings that we've had here. There were some comments by certain members of the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, and I think just at first glance, it's important to note that the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission is made up of 37 voting members. And there are 4 alternates that are in there. Those representatives are appointed by the county executives from Lehigh County and Northampton County. And what's significant is when that meeting took place, there were only 16 out of 37 Lehigh Valley Planning Commission voting members that were in attendance who voted. So it wasn't even half of the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission who voted on that. I don't know what constitutes a quorum for their purposes, but I find it hard to believe that 16 out of 37, not even a simple majority, would be a quorum. But with regard to the comments that were in there were some comments that were made. One was by Mr. Glickman. Mr. Glickman proposed an amendment regarding methane recapture, which is interesting because what was before then was a zoning amendment. And what he was proposing seems more appropriate for any conditional use that would be placed on the property for a landfill. There's other light industrial uses that could be used there. There was also a comment by Ms. Amato. She discussed the Delaware and Lehigh Heritage Corridor and something that she defined as a view shed, which I found interesting considering all of the industrial sites along the corridor throughout Easton, Bethlehem, Allentown, and elsewhere. In fact, on the New Jersey side, there's a large power plant. Then there were comments by Becky Bradley, who's the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission Executive Director. She was talking about climate policy, and I found that peculiar. There's an article in WFNZ from December 22nd, 2022, where there's a quote from her that says, "A housing shortage that is pricing families out of their own neighborhoods." So I found her comments interesting because she's calling for the construction of thousands of new homes to be built in the Lehigh Valley, all of which will bring more cars, more trucks, more trash. The motion passed. There was no roll call. It was apparently a voice vote, and it didn't sound like anybody voted against it. It wasn't noted in those minutes. There are comments that were in there from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission that says the proposed text amendments do not align with the intent of future LV to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public, policy 3.2, or to protect high priority natural lands, policy 3.1. While expansion of landfill can support the physical health of the township, policy 4.6, it is strongly recommended that the township prioritize the retention of natural features as an essential characteristic, essential characterizing attribute of the area of the river. So, noticeably absent from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission member list was any representative of Lower Saucon Township, and it didn't appear to me that any individual on the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission from Lower Saucon Township deliberated, voted, or offered any input on those comments. So I have to ask, this is a rhetorical question I'm asking here, in light of the 16 out of the 37 votes from the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission members that were in attendance, again, not even half of the whole commission, who are against rezoning this property for any light industrial use, including the possible conditional use as a landfill. Does the landfill intend to prohibit waste from the municipalities of those 16 Lehigh Valley Planning Commission members who voted against what was being proposed? And those members came from places such as Easton, Bethlehem, Whitehall, Lower Macungie, Weissenberg Township, North Whitehall Township, South Whitehall Township, Bryansville, Williams Township, which has their own landfill, and Catasauqua. And I ask that because those municipalities' representatives, I know UPC said they don't want a local landfill to expand to take their community's trash. They apparently would prefer to ship it off somewhere else, maybe outer space, or for somewhere else, for somebody else to deal with their waste. So my question is going to be to the landfill, do they intend to give them what they want? No trash disposal at a Lower Saucon Township trash facility. And I then did a little bit further research, and I looked into the county plan. So there's a county plan for solid waste disposal. And I think the word plan is being very liberally used here. As I'm not aware of any efforts to seek to amend the county plan, and it doesn't sound like much of a plan to me when there are 3 landfills in Lower Saucon Township. I'm sorry, there are 3 landfills in Northampton County. One of those landfills has already announced that it's going to be closing, leaving 2 left, one of which is Lower Saucon Township, which could close if not expanded. So that would leave only 1 landfill for all of Northampton County. Do those Lehigh Valley municipalities intend to ship their trash to that 1 landfill in Northampton County? And if so, how long is it going to last? Or they intend to ship their trash elsewhere? If they intend to ship their trash elsewhere, are they going to do it by truck? Is it going to create additional truck traffic for us? Is it going to create additional emissions and pollution issues? So those are just some thoughts that I had. Some questions are rhetorical, some of them I think are, prove my point. That's just what I had done. So that's all I have for my council report. So we are now up to the solicitor report. Anything else?
No, I don't have anything else, thank you.
The engineer report, our engineer is So now we are up to public comment, non-agenda items for Lower Saucon Township residents and Lower Saucon Township taxpayers only, again with a 3-minute time limit. So first on the list is Victoria O.C.
Do I need to give my full name again?
Please do for the record.
Okay. Victoria Optoff Cordaro. First, I just wanted to say that I had a very pleasant experience with our Lower Saucon Township Police Department. So I wanted to thank them for all they did. There was an incident in our development where I live in which a resident, we think a resident who lives in the development passed the school bus while their stop sign was out and collecting students from the neighborhood. So that police officer is, I know, doing a very wonderful job right now investigating that incident. And I've spoken to him a number of times, and he is doing everything he can. So I just want to say thank you to the Lower Saucon Township Police Department for all they're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck with that.
All right, next we have Thomas Babb, B-A-A-B, Thomas Babb. Next is Bob Blasco. Bob Blasco.
I was waiting for Thomas to speak. Yeah, one thing I'd like to bring up is, and I have to ask this question not to really or drilling or anything, but because I don't really know. Is it the council that codifies ordinances, comes up with ordinances for the township? Do you guys do that? So,
Sir, again, this is public comments. If you have comments on anything non-agenda, you can do that.
my comment then would be to request that you codify an ordinance to keep these landfill trucks from using these routes other than what they're supposed to be using. Because they're coming in from all the directions. I mean, I've got videos, I've got a dash cam, I follow them. They're using other routes other than what they're supposed to do. That's one thing. And I have to kind of laugh when you sit there yourself and you question the motives of those wishing to ship trash out of Northampton County, but you have no problem accepting trash from New York and New Jersey. I find that ironic, to be honest with you. And then you talk about increased truck traffic if we ship our garbage out, but you have, again, no problem bringing trucks in from out of state to do the same thing.
Thank you. Next is Mark Zimic.
Mark Ozmek, Reddington Road, same as before. I know this is an agenda item.
Sir, we're on non-agenda items. We've already had comments on agenda items, so if you have a non-agenda item, that's the time to speak to non-agenda
It was
items.
not on the agenda. I went to spelling of Scott McNair, that last name. Can you spell his last name?
Sir, the records are available as part of the council packet that's on the website. You can find that information is readily available.
How soon will that be available?
It's on the council website currently.
Okay, I'll look. As for traffic, I got complaints about Reddington Road, and the police chief left because I had an incident out front where somebody had passed me in front of my house when I was going to try and pull in my driveway. And another one stopped behind me, and when I got out to confront him, he wouldn't roll down his window so I could bitch at him, and he pulled out a gun on me. These people come from the, Easton Fish and Game Gun Club. So maybe if you guys decided to write a letter down to Easton Fish and Game, and I don't know if any of you go down there. I know the vice president put something on the website concerning traffic in the neighborhood, but there's a lot of issues with traffic coming in and out of there, and a lot of them from New Jersey. I've had it out with the New Jersey State Police and the other police department on the other side of Phillipsburg, because he come down there one morning in his police cruiser about 80 miles an hour past the school bus, and the kids at the school bus zone. There's just a complete lack of disrespect for people that come and go out of there, and that's part of my complaint for that. Not that I want to pick on the SES scrapyard, but as far as roads go in Apple Park Road, maybe they could do something to clean up Riverside Drive, because that's a muddy mess as well.
Did you, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did you report that incident to our local police?
Which one?
The gun incident?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're tracking it as well. Okay.
I filed a report for a right to know act too, and they denied it. I didn't take it to the district attorney. I was going to. The other thing is I'd say the officer that came.
Mr. President, your time is up. I need you to wrap up your comments, okay?
Well, tried to kind of turn it into my fault, which is ridiculous. But it's all on video. Everything I do is on video, coming and going the whole 9 yards. So anyway, have a good night. Good thing you did for the police department.
Thank you, you too. All right, we have Dave Boulin. Dave Boulin.
Close enough. Dave Boulin. That's good. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Very
All
well,
right.
thank you.
One of the things I wanted to comment about, and somebody here, a professional, was talking about microphones, and I have to agree. When Priscilla was playing that video, I could not hear her, and I also had a little bit of problem hearing Brian. So really, it's just a matter, I think, of talking into the microphone, and that goes for most of the other council. All right, I wanted to commend you working as a council to hire the new police, potentially doing that. I think it's a great thing. It's great to see when you guys are and gals, when you're in harmony, and so I appreciate that, okay? I've heard some really harsh words here, and might have had a few myself, but that was one I wanted to speak about. The other is maybe we ought to limit the council's discussion at the end to 3 minutes. I think maybe that wouldn't be too bad either, although there's a lot of interesting things that were said. I personally am a scientist by training, and I appreciate facts and not I feels, okay? So that was something I'd ask you all to try to do. I think Mark over here did a fairly good job, and there were some others, okay? I don't need to go on. Everybody here heard that. The graphics, you guys have really done a great job. I could really see what's going on here. The only thing I would ask is that you buy a pointer, right? A laser pointer, right? There you go. So, and each one gets one, by the way, for whatever Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever. All right. No politics. okay? But really, I come here to hear what goes on in the township, and I really don't need long-winded statements by people who are running for office. I am not running for office, I don't hold office, and I really do get tired of this day in and day out. And I know everybody that's here that's running for office, it's clear. So if you're gonna do it, at least keep it short, okay? And if you have something that you feel was not correctly stated, then good, write it out, put it on the screen so we can all read it, then we can all go home and listen to the tapes and say yes or no. All right, that's sort of it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we have Laura Ray. Laura Ray.
Okay, I'm going to be short-winded, okay? I just wanted to make a comment regarding the police officers that were assigned to EAC duty last night. I found it very odd that we had to have 2 police officers for our meeting the whole night. And then especially given what we just heard Chief Barnes saying tonight about how short-staffed they are. We had 2 police officers watching our meeting. We only had about 5 people in the audience, maybe 6. And, you know, us sitting up here, there's like 8 of us and Carol. So I'm not sure why we needed to be guarded like we were some sort of criminals or something. So that's my comment. I mean, we didn't even have 2 here tonight for the council meeting. We had 1.
All right, that concludes the public comment on agenda items. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Menace?
Yes.
Mr. Croce?
Yes.
Ms. Giuliano?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Ms. Yerger?
Yes.
Motion passed. Good night.
What happens though? Yours says it doesn't say no does it say it's difficult to turn it on and say
What, the empty lot? The empty driveway? Thank you. That's going to be him? Who's that? Okay. Who's that? Who's got the paperwork to sign it?
It's not on the table when you come in, but it's gone now, they got it.
Oh.
Let me get out of here.
nice to see you, hon.
I wanted to speak about something, but I didn't get on that paper. It's all right.